Hello everybody, welcome back once again to the Lord of the Rings The Third Age walkthrough. We are almost smack dab in the middle of the East Emnet Gullies. And looks like we got, what was that in that chest there? Okay, looks like a new shield for Barethor. A new ugly shield. Sorry. I don't know. There's like, I realize now that there's like 3 shields maybe that that I like of Barethor's. Everything else is just kind of bleh. Anyways, not that important. In the last video there, I did actually miss a couple of treasures. I kind of pointed that out on the, or in the like the warg hive area, I guess I'd call it. And, you know, that's unfortunate. It wasn't until, I think, my second playthrough again that I explored the area a little better and found those. So, unfortunately, again, I didn't have, didn't have footage of that. Anyways, alright, so what do we got here? Caster and... Alright, so the guys with the crossbows, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but they are able to do a damage shield. And it seems to me it's only a physical damage shield though, so like, you know, if you strike somebody he casts that on with like Barethor, you know, in his sword skill, Barethor will take some damage back. But it doesn't seem to be applying to spirit power, so, you know, if you attack that target again with a, you know, in Idriel's Loudwater Fury or something, she won't take damage. So, I guess something kind of good to know, I guess. And I believe it's after this battle I do, sorry, not after this battle, after this video, I did quite a bit of skill farming with my characters. Actually, I should say everybody except Elagast. Elagast I don't tend to even bother ever equipping the Elfstone of Fellshadow, just because again I don't really feel like that that's something that's that great for him. That's not to say that it's not a good idea at all. I guess there's probably some times here and there where maybe those skills would come in handy, but in all honesty, I don't bother with him typically. I guess I just don't, I don't know. The good thing is that doesn't take a whole lot of time to learn all those skills, but again, I just didn't really feel like I wanted to spend the time, I guess, to do it. But anyways, again, after this, you know, after this video, there will probably be a pretty huge power spike again. You know, typically where I do any sort of leveling off screen, you know, the following videos will be a bit different. And definitely in this case, I think that I definitely start using the Shadowcraft a lot more often. Once Barethor, Idriel, and I actually taught those 3, sorry, Barethor, Idriel, and Hadhod, I taught the black, or sorry, Shadowcraft skills. So again, you know, I think from probably after this video, and then from that point on, you'll see a lot more Shadowcraft abilities being used. And I guess it's just important to know, you know, where those come from. Obviously, you have to equip the Elfstone of Fellshadow. Boy, sometimes it's hard to remember the names of those. Anyways, you're gonna have to equip that and learn all the skills to, obviously, to use those. And again, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit overpowered. In all honesty, I really do. I really feel like that's the case. But that being said, it's also got some abilities in there that are just insanely useful that you can't get any other way. So again, I don't know. You know, if you want to teach one character some of the skills, or if you want to pick and choose between the skills, or you know, you can definitely do that. I tend to, again, since they're learned so quickly, I usually just you know, equip one character, put one of these enemies to sleep, and then cast, like, you know, Whip of the Master over and over and over until I learn all the skills. And again, that's just because the skills are just learned so fast that, you know, I don't really feel like you're getting a huge benefit out of, you know, picking and choosing, and then, you know, I don't know. It's like maybe 15 minutes of skill farming, and you'll have one character knowing all the skills. So that's how I do it. You know, again, if that's not something that you're willing or wanting to do, then by all means just skip it. But I tend to just teach them everything and call it a day. Anyways, what are we doing here? Crippling dudes over and over for no reason. Well, not for no reason, I guess. I'm trying to learn the next skills, but all right, let's put this guy out of his misery. One thing that I noticed as well here is, and I'm not sure how well I kept up with it in this playthrough, but in my second playthrough, around this time, I started to use, or being that I was using that Elfstone of Fell Shadow a lot more, I noticed I kind of stopped swapping in characters and kind of making sure that they were getting the most experience out of every fight. And reason being is, you know, that takes a little bit of time, and basically all of, or my three main casters, Berethor, Hadhod, and Idril, they can all essentially one-shot the enemies when they use the Shadowcraft, and it's almost just faster to finish a fight, you know, and then get into the next fight than it is to swap all the different characters in. So, you know, instead of getting the most experience out of every fight, what I kind of did was just get into more fights, and just get the kind of the same amount of experience that way. I'm not sure indeed what method is faster, but at the end of the day, I don't know that it really matters that much though either. Ooh, nice triple crit. One thing I want to say too is Flames of Ruin there. I didn't use that as much in this playthrough for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why, but that is actually a really good skill. Just the fact that it does damage over time, you know, is actually pretty huge. I don't know the reuse time on it, I guess. That's the only thing I'm not 100% sure on. Unfortunately, you know, with Hadhod, he's naturally fairly slow, so unless you are, you know, boosting up his speed, that becomes an issue. And then on top of that, if you do invest in his speed, that means that you're not investing in his spirit. So, you know, when you do cast those hard-hitting spells, they're not going to hit for as much damage. Now, again, I don't know how much it really matters at the end of the day, but I was pretty comfortable with his the amount of damage he had. You know, his greatest strength probably is his constitution, and maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know that that's indeed his greatest strength, but he gets a ton of it just naturally. And I mean, in all honesty, I kind of wish he didn't. I wish that you know, you could maybe pick what ability. Well, anyways, you can't. So I guess at the end of the day, Hadhod, you know, ends up getting just a ton of health, and that's cool and everything. And you know, the Constitution is nice to have as kind of a, you know, a nice tanky stat. But anyways, in the long run, especially if you build the way I do, you're kind of going to have a balance probably between speed and spirit. And you know, when you do that, then obviously it kind of waters down either his damage, or, you know, you're just not going to get turns as often as the rest of your characters. So, you know, it is what it is. But anyways, long story short, his Flames of Ruin skill is pretty awesome, and you know, I feel like it's a really strong A really strong ability, and I wish I would have, you know, worked that into more fights, especially the longer ones. That's because that's really where it's going to come in handy. A lot of this, I guess, you know, if actually I should say, if his spirit, if I didn't boost up his spirit so much, that would still be a really great skill. Again, for the damage over a time effect. But at this point, being that my spirit is so high, things just don't tend to live very long. So that damage over time effect, you know, doesn't do as much, I suppose. But that's not to say that it's not good, though. I think it still really is. I think it's pretty fantastic. Anyways, where the heck are we here? I'm completely lost. One thing to know about this area, too, is that, and I think I've got footage. Maybe that'll be the next video. But you'll randomly get into battles with 3 Nazgul. Which, yeah, I know, that sounds pretty crazy, right? 3 Nazgul at a time. Except the thing is, they're super weak. They're complete chumps, in all honesty. They don't really do anything special. They really only have, like, single target sword attacks, which is, you know, again, super lame. But that being said, they're also worth just a ton of experience. It's crazy. So, in all honesty, this area is one of the best areas in the game, I would say, to level up because of those Nazgul. Typically, like, you know, this isn't the only place that you'll fight, like, the Nazgul. They're named different things, like, you know, some of them are Nazgul Ring Wraith commanders, and some of them are, like, Fell Beast captains and that kind of crap, but the ones here that are not, you know, riding the Fell Beasts, as far as I could tell, they were the best experience. And possibly the best experience of any monster in the game, maybe other than bosses, I guess I would say. But anyways, most likely the most experience that you're going to get, at least for a few chapters, anyway, and that's from any random encounter. So, anyways, long story short, once again, fantastic leveling opportunity here. And that being said, also, you know, eventually we're going to get some other characters here, and this isn't a bad place to actually come back to. You know, if you feel like those characters need a little bit of a boost. I don't know that it's really necessary at that point, and I typically don't do it. But that being said, you could if you really wanted to. Anyways, they also have an item on them. I believe it's Sauron blood, which I don't know. It's okay. It's not. I don't feel like it's anything fancy, but I guess it's, you know, something that you wouldn't. Well, I shouldn't say that. So I believe that item can actually be crafted with the crafting stone, or the stone of nimble crafting, or whatever the name of it was. But you know, I don't know. I don't know that I would say that it's worth farming for. You know, I wouldn't specifically be here just for that. But again, the good thing is they're crazy amounts of experience. So that's the real benefit, I would say, to fighting those Nazgul here. Oh, that's right. So there's some treasure chests up above on this ridge up here, and you have to go. You have to go way to the north and then head west, and then you'll actually head through kind of a little bit of a cave, and then and that's how you get to those treasure chests. So I was kind of just running around looking for a path, but this actually isn't the way, and neither is this. This is a dead end up here, but there's some treasures, so you'll definitely want to head up into this pathway. Alright, so what we got here? These guys are all pretty chumpy. The dual wielders. Boom! One other thing, actually, I wanted to mention. Last night I was messing around with some, like, skill building, I guess, and I had a couple of enemies that I didn't have slept, and so they were able to attack me still. And one of the things that I did actually was use Hadhod's mountain shield. And the crazy thing about that was I spent quite a bit of time in this specific battle, and it seemed to me that the enemies never broke through the mountain shield, and I almost wonder if that doesn't have something to do with his spirit, actually. So what I mean by that is, I kind of feel like maybe the amount of damage that it absorbs is based off of Hadhod's spirit. And, you know, I'm not sure if that's 100% the case. I really don't know, but, like I said, I have to, you know, do a little more testing. But initially, that was my thought, was that, you know, possibly it's based off of his spirit. Which, you know, I guess in a game that you're building up his strength, you may not notice that as much. You know, it probably doesn't feel like it's doing that much, but boy, when you know, being that I'm building up his spirit, it felt like, I mean, like I said last night, they never even broke through the shield, and I spent quite a bit of time in that single battle, so it was kind of crazy. But anyways, speaking of Hadhod's spirit, let's give him a couple. Boom. So we got, what was that, pauldrons or something for Idriel? Lordly Might. Lordly Might's okay. You know, again, though, Hadhod, I'm not building his strength up at all, so that's not going to be as effective for me. Alright, what are we learning here with? Alright, Northern Storm it is. Excuse me. And Crippling Might for his passive. Crippling Might's going to increase the effectiveness of your crippling shot. You know, as if it wasn't already awesome the way it was. Apparently that makes it better. I don't know that I really tested that out much, you know, to see how much more effective it really is. But I guess that being said, that's always something that that I'm always using anyway. So I don't know. Getting that passive earlier is probably better. There's, you know, again, there's a lot of passives in the game that aren't going to be that useful, or, you know, if you decide to go a certain path, you know, it may not, or some of them may not be as effective as if you decided to build your characters differently. But anyways, one that comes to mind is Elagos, what is it, Ranger War Rally or something like that. And what that does is it increases the amount of momentum that you gain when you use an action with him. And I always keep my perfect gauge filled up, so again, that passive really doesn't do anything for me. There's a couple of other characters that have passives that are geared towards that as well, and you know, the same reason or the same thoughts, I guess, apply to them. You know, there's, if you don't ever use the perfect meter, you know, that stuff is going to be pointless. So, you know, you might as well invest in a different passive instead first. So that's typically what I do. And you know, it can become, or it can feel like it's a little bit much on the micromanaging side, but I feel like it pays off. You know, you're just going to get to the passives that are actually useful a lot sooner. And you know, I definitely feel like that's worth the time. I mean, in all honesty, it doesn't take that long to bust open your menu every time you level and just make sure that you're, you know, learning the passive that you actually want. Alright. Oh, swing and a miss. So, that's another thing, you know, with Hadhod, is that he's got so many, you know, good skills and good abilities, and it's tough to decide, in all honesty, what you want to do. I really like his crippling smash. I think that's one of the abilities that I use way more than anything else. But unfortunately, with his lack of dexterity, that becomes a huge issue, especially during this area in the game. One of the ways that you can kind of overcome that issue is just over leveling, because typically when you level, you know, you may not always get points of dexterity, but it will, you know, gradually increase over time, and that'll kind of help you out with your misses and whatnot. But you know, just expect that that's still going to be a bit of an issue. Wow, and Bearthor's still trying to learn Wheel of Fire. Like I said, after this video, though, I believe this is where I stopped and just took a little break and leveled up, you know, some characters. Shadowcraft or shadow abilities. We'll see, though. We'll see for sure. Hopefully the next video should shed some light on that subject. I think this is the last battle of this video, though. And there's nothing really new here. Obviously, you've got a scout captain. What is that, a shadow chieftain? And then I forget what the dual wielder guy is called, but... Oh, no, he's not a dual wielder, I'm sorry. Anyways, I'll probably... Like I said, hopefully this next video is the one where everybody's got a bunch of their skills learned. Shadowcraft skills, that is. Otherwise, it very well may be the next one. I'm not really sure. It was sometime around this point, though. I kind of realized that I didn't want to, you know, be spamming those abilities in combat and kind of just wasting time for the walkthrough. You know, you're just not going to get a whole lot of... I mean, you know, you can still see the effectiveness, I guess, of, you know, skills like crippling, but... you know, at a certain point, though, it's kind of pointless. It's stuff that we've all done 100 times before, so... anyways, you know what? I'm going to cut the commentary here, so I hope these guides are helpful, though, and, you know, hopefully you guys are liking them, and keep watching. So, thanks for joining me.